Hi there, I'm Andrea Koppel, and it's time for coffee, the podcast where you get to hear firsthand what the jobs and careers that interest you the most are really like. Hey there, Java junkies. Welcome to another K-Cup mini episode of Time for Coffee. By the way, K-Cups come in 3 sizes, single, double, and triple shots, or roughly 1 minute, 5 minutes, or 10 minutes in length. So if you don't have time to throw back an entire caffeinated career conversation, these K-Cup mini episodes of T4C can give you a quick caffeinated fix, whether you're on the go or you only have a few minutes to binge. So grab your mug and take a chug, because it's time for a caffeinated career double shot K-Cup with my guest, Shawn Olds. Before I ask you the final time for coffee questions I try to ask all my guests, Shawn, I'm curious, how many careers would you say you've had to date? I say, just for example, that I've had 4. I spent 20 years as a journalist. Then I went into the public relations field for a couple of years. Then I went into the nonprofit world for about 7 years. And now I'm a startup entrepreneur, a different type of startup entrepreneur, obviously, from you, and a podcaster. So this is my 4th career.
Interesting. So I guess I'd have to say I would group my startups, even though they've been spread out over 20 years, as one career. Each one of them varied, obviously, but I wouldn't count each individual startup as a different career. I would count my time as in service as a career, both my time in the military and my time at the State Department. And honestly, I hope I get a chance to serve again at some point for this country. I would also group in there, I started a nonprofit at one point right after September 11th and have been very involved in the nonprofit space outside of just board work. And so I would include nonprofits as a career. And one career which I started in the past decade and plan to develop more over time is my career as an investor. So my wife and I started angel investing in companies. And that has been just an absolutely wonderful experience and something I hope that I'll be able to carry forward.
What do you think that message is, or that lesson is, for our young listeners who are still in school, may have just graduated, and are trying to think through what they're going to be doing with their lives and how life, especially on the professional side, tends to unfold?
I think the lesson I wish I had understood when I thought I was going to be chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and that was the only path forward, is that life does just what you said. It unfolds, and life is about experiences and garnering as many as you can. And so not being in a rush to get down any one path and embracing what is in front of you and really experiencing it, internalizing those experiences so that you can carry them forward into that next endeavor. But I can tell you that when I graduated West Point now 26 years ago, I had absolutely no idea that I would get into the startup world, let alone be running an AI machine learning company.
And probably also for our listeners who are hearing what sounds like a woodpecker, I'm guessing, is that your phone with text messaging?
My apologies.
No, I just thought, because I heard a few of them, and then I thought, well, maybe Shawn does have a woodpecker in his office at home.
I wish I had that kind of pet. That would be a woodpecker called Slack that is letting off notifications. My apologies.
Oh, no problem. So I think that's such an important point, your last point, Shawn, about how life unfolds. And also the role that the relationships that you have, the friendships that you make as an undergrad, if you're in the military service, these incredible deep relationships that you forge, and in graduate school and in the working world, they oftentimes open doors for you that you can't even imagine.
You're absolutely right. And I mentioned France, who's my co-founder. France and I, as I said, have known each other for 25 years. But for France reaching out to me, we would have not started Boodle. I would be on doing something else. Another great example, my CTO, a gentleman named Ansel Tang, was the VP of engineering at eToys. I've known Ansel for 20 years. He is a very talented engineer who's built some amazing platforms in his life, has a PhD out of the University of Maryland. And we had a very good and strong VP of engineering when we started Boodle. But he unfortunately, I won't say unfortunately, he had a child, which is a wonderful thing, but decided he wanted to be a dad, not a full-time VP of engineering at a startup. And about a year and a half into the company, I was at a loss without someone to lead the team, but had been in touch with Ansel over the years. We had stayed friends since departing at eToys, and called him up, and the timing was right. He was actually looking at new opportunities and brought him on, and he has transformed this company and where we've gone. But to your point, those are two relationships I started early on. I never planned either one of them to work with 20 some odd years later, but here we are, and I'm much better for it.
Thanks for tuning in to this K-Cup mini episode of Time for Coffee. If you want to listen to our entire caffeinated career conversation, please check out the show notes for this episode. Thanks so much for listening to Time for Coffee, where the professionals in the jobs that most interest you always have time to grab coffee 24/7, no matter where you live. I have one quick favor to ask you. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe to Time for Coffee. Thanks so much.